Hey, hello everybody. Just want to let you know we're going to be starting in about 5 minutes or so. So, work your way in, grab a seat, get some coffee or water if you haven't already, but we'll be starting shortly. Thanks. Hey guys, just one more time, take your seats. We're going to start in probably about 1 minute or so. So just last chance, grab any water, anything you need, but go ahead, take your seats, and we'll be starting shortly. Thanks. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome to Plug and Play's Winter Summit. Hashtag PNP Winter 2019. So, if you're on Twitter, and even if you're not, sign up quickly. Use hashtag PNP 2019, or Winter 2019, rather. My name's Adam Jansen. I'm with the mobility team here at Plug and Play. I'm looking forward to spending the next few minutes with you guys. So, your day looks like the following. So basically, 9 to about 9:15 with me. From 9:15 to 9:45, we'll have a keynote from David Tuhag. 9:45 to 11:05, we'll be hearing from startups. 11:05 to 11:30 or so, we'll have an awards ceremony. And finally, we'll have, lunch from 11:30 to 12:30 or so. So as I mentioned a minute ago, hashtag PNP Winter 2019. And if you need Wi-Fi in order to access your Twitter account, it's PNP events. There's no password or anything, so it should be easy for you guys. And then let's just talk about the logistics a little bit here. All this information is on the back of your badge, so you don't have to, write it down or anything very quickly. But Lineuper is basically our digital brochure. Good opportunity to vote on the startups, and all the rest of those bullet points there. There's also a networking app, which is Brella. Again, this is all on the back of your badge, and so feel free to scan the QR code for Brella, and then I believe there's lineuper information on the bottom as well. And let's just jump right in. So some of the trends we've seen in 2019, of course, are electrification and more trucks and SUVs being released, and so here's a couple that have been released. I would say that both of these presentations went equally smoothly. On my right, there's the Tesla Cybertruck, which obviously is a very cool vehicle, over 200,000 orders or pre-orders now. And Ford has proved to us all that, even a Mustang can be an electric SUV these days. So, it's very clear, though, that things are, becoming increasingly different than they used to be. Behind me, there's an image that shows all the different SUVs from a number of different manufacturers, and they pretty much all look the same. I understand also this is a truck compared to SUVs, but I'm sure if we had an image of the trucks compared to this one, it would look pretty different as well. So, yeah, the Cybertruck's a little different, but very cool in my opinion. Not everybody agrees, but that's okay. Last year we saw, the new scooters and micromobility taking off in 2018 primarily, and now in 2019 they're saying, okay, well, the economics are not working out quite as they had expected, and so they're thinking about new business models. And there are startups out there who are putting autonomy even on electric scooters or new charging solutions. But I think one of the simplest ways that's begun to take off is just selling them. So behind me, there are two scooters that have been released over the past year. So one's from Bird, the other is from Boosted. Basically, they're $1,300 and $1,600 respectively, so a good opportunity for them there. And then, of course, there's always like the more traditional, so to speak, manufacturers and like Xiaomi and Ninebot. And then finally, we saw that internal combustion, it's not over. There's a good opportunity for innovation in internal combustion as well. Chevrolet, of course, released their first ever mid-engine Corvette, which, I think is pretty exciting. So in terms of our startups and what we've seen there, we've had a busy year. We've made 834 introductions. We've had 138 deal flows, and we've sourced over 2,350 startups. And of those startups, we've seen that they've come, largely from Europe and North America, but really from all over the world. So, 22 in Africa, 30 in South America. Really, they come from, everywhere, and there's nowhere we don't look for new startups. And we've seen a number of trends in those startups. Mobility as a service continues to be huge, but we're seeing additional business models and markets. Charging infrastructure, we're seeing is not necessarily keeping up with the growth in battery electric vehicles and from the e-scooters that we're seeing now. Vehicle software, we're seeing a continued push towards L4 and L5 in autonomous vehicles, vehicle-to-everything connectivity and cybersecurity. And vehicle hardware, we're seeing that companies are continuing to make investments into sensors, particularly LiDAR, battery technologies moving towards solid state, and lightweight materials or unique materials for their vehicles. So just to talk about each of them briefly, mobility as a service, the opportunities, as I said, come from new business models and going into new markets. So Uber and Lyft, of course, are kind of what you think of initially when you're thinking about, mobility as a service, but there are parts of the market that they haven't touched. And so in emerging markets, for example, cars are not nearly as huge as motorcycles and scooters. And so, there are startups out there where they're saying, okay, well, we'll take this Uber or Lyft model and become the Uber for motorbikes. They're seeing ride-sharing platforms for, commuters or kids, handicapped people. We're seeing white labeling. And so, just behind me, there's a few examples of the startups who are working on things, to that effect. EV infrastructure, as I mentioned a moment ago, it's not keeping up. So there are companies out there where they're thinking like, okay, how can we solve this problem? So one of them is portable chargers or batteries. I've seen an example of a battery that you can tow behind an electric vehicle and you can rent to solve kind of the range anxiety issue. A shared charger network beyond just like the Tesla superchargers, and a scooter charging network to make the economics work out a little bit better. Vehicle software, they're looking at the in-car experience quite a bit these days. As I mentioned, the L4 and L5 autonomous vehicle, vehicle to everything, which of course ties back into smart cities, which is of course a major initiative for us. And so, yeah, they're looking at different options for in-car entertainment, passenger monitoring with driver-facing monitors, for example, or cameras rather. Voice assistant, bringing Siri to the car, beyond just Apple CarPlay, but other voice assistants as well. And finally, vehicle hardware. Companies are not shying away from making investments into vehicle hardware. We're seeing continued growth in LiDAR. I think it's maybe not as hyped up as it used to be, but it's still definitely something that people are looking at. But then also just other sensors, radar and sensor fusion, of course, batteries, materials, et cetera. So, before we jump into our partners, I just want to take a moment to talk about kind of our global scale. So we, of course, have the office here, but then we have partners all over the world. So, for mobility, our major offices are like Tokyo, Beijing, Shanghai. We're looking at expanding into the UK. And so there's quite a few opportunities for all of our partners to engage with us globally, and it's something that we continue to be really excited about. And before I recognize a couple of our newer partners, I'd like to invite our CEO and founder, Saeed Hamidi, on stage to join me. Please welcome him. So our mobility network continues to be huge and is always growing. And so some of our newest partners that we have are Allison Transmission, JTEC, Hanwha Systems, and Morelli. And so first, I'd like to invite Heijun Zhang from Hanwha Systems to come up and say a few words.
Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to attend the Plug and Play's Winter Summit. Before introducing my company, I'd like to introduce myself briefly. My name is Haejin. I'm in charge of Hanwha Systems Digital Innovation Lab. And today I'm here to introduce my company, Hanwha Systems. Hanwha Group is Korea's seventh largest conglomerate, and Hanwha System is the one of its affiliates. Hanwha System has two main divisions. The first is ICT, which stands for Information and Communication Technology. The second is System Division, Defense Electronics Business Division. I'm very interested in mobility and IoT, and I also want to find growth potential startups, and I do like to develop new business model based on digital-based technology. And I think the plug and play is a path to global connections for Hanwha Systems, and I also believe that many startups to enter Korean or Asian market through plug and play. I'm happy to be a member of plug and play once again. I'd like to make a good result, the collaboration with startups. Thank you very much.
May I just add a little context and make a little announcement? We are really excited about starting to work with Korean companies. Last count, we have had 82 Japanese conglomerate as part of our IoT mobility, including Nissan, Toyota. Somehow, our Korean friends were a little slower to join us, but Hanwha is a $61 billion conglomerate. I believe it's about 30,000 people, and they are very big in petrochemical materials. They are really big in financial services, life insurance, and other industries. And quite frankly, the announcement I wanted to make, I believe on the 10th of January, we are hosting Mayor Park here, the mayor of Seoul, Korea, and we will have about 10 startups of Korean origin presenting. The quality of the startups in Korea, I was amazed. I mean, I was there 2 weeks ago, and I saw 30 startups, really, really same caliber as Silicon Valley. Congratulations to you and your colleagues in Korea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Greg Mann from Allison Transmission to the stage so he could say a few words as well.
Yeah, my name is Greg Mann, Director of New Business Development with Allison Transmission. Just a little bit of background about Allison. We were a part of General Motors for about 100 years. We went public back in 2012. Last year we had about $2.7 billion in revenue. We're the largest commercial fully automatic transmission company in the world. Our focus is on conventional, hybrid, and EV propulsion system solutions. Thanks again to Plug and Play to having us out here. We're very interested in the mobility and connected services sectors, and look forward to meeting some startups here today and in the future. Thank you.
And the final partner I'd like to recognize, we have an innovation award for them. Basically, it's SAIC Capital. They've been engaged with us quite a bit in China. We've had numerous co-investments. And overall, we've been very excited about the level of innovation that they have, and we've been impressed with the speed that they've operated at. And so I'd like to invite Michael Cohen, the investments director from SAIC, to come on stage as well.
Thank you very much, Saeed. Thank you.
Great seeing you.
Thank you. Yes, we've certainly enjoyed our partnership with Plug and Play, and they certainly have fantastic deal flow sessions, and we've really enjoy and look forward to expanding our relationship with Plug and Play.
Thank you so much. Let me stay for a second. Show of hand, how many of you know SAIC well? Okay, I know a little bit, but they are, I believe, the largest automotive company in the world. Am I in China? But still, I think you guys produce, like, how many joint ventures do you have?
We have countless joint ventures, but we
But
made about 7 million vehicles.
7 million vehicles last year. And quite frankly, they have both joint ventures with large OEMs like
Volkswagen and GM.
Volkswagens and GM. And then they go down to tier 1, tier 2 suppliers, component, that they also have joint ventures with various companies. But if, again, I'm not, don't quote me on this, but market cap of SAIC, I believe, is larger than the car companies of America. I think last count was about 150 billion.
Yes.
So it's a big company. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker. He comes to us from a company that many of you are probably familiar with. It's called Byton Automotive. They make, or they're going to be making very soon, a very exciting car in the M-Byte SUV, and they've announced the K-Byte sedan concept as well. The M-Byte has the biggest screen I've ever seen in a vehicle. It's very exciting to me. And so please welcome David Tuig.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Adam, and thanks to the Plug and Play team for inviting us here today. So I haven't got the job of waking you up after lunch, which is even tougher, but I have got the job of waking up this morning, right? So Byton, Adam already introduced us. We're one of the EV players in the Valley. At last count, there was over 40 EV startups. We're one of them, and hopefully at the end of the presentation, you'll understand why we think we're a little bit different, and obviously why we think we're going to make it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, okay? And I think it's only appropriate, we're in the heart of Silicon Valley, to start with a quote which is often associated with the late, great Steve Jobs. Actually, Steve didn't make up this quote. People say it was Jack Kerouac. There's some controversy about who made up this fantastic quote. Here's to the crazy ones. But the reason I want to start with that quote is EVs have a history of attracting crazy folk, right? And risk takers and misfits. And let me give you a few examples, okay? So starting right back with the very first one, the consensus is this is the first ever EV. Back in 1881, this guy called Gustave Trouvé put a Siemens motor in a tricycle with a bunch of lead acid batteries, and he drove it around the streets of Paris. And you know, this guy was a little odd because look at it, some of his other inventions were electric rifles. He liked to fish at night, so he invented an electric alarm for when the fish would bite. He even patented something very like an aircraft, but powered by shotgun cartridges. So you can see this wasn't a normal guy, right? So if we wind forward a few years, 1899, this is Count Camille Genazzi, and he's sitting on his vehicle, which was called Ne Jamais Contente, Never Be Happy. And that's the first ever vehicle to break 100 kph, okay, the famous mile-a-minute barrier. And back in 1899, this was like the sound barrier. People thought that, you know, your nose would start to bleed and that the human body couldn't take these speeds. And he was the first guy to do it in an all-electric vehicle, right? Strangely, he did not die at the wheel of an early racing car, because lots of these guys did. But unfortunately, Count Genazzi died in a hunting accident when he thought it was a good idea to hide in a bush and make sounds like a duck while he was on a duck hunting expedition. And unfortunately, he was quite good at doing that because one of his buddies shot him. And unfortunately, he died. Rather unusual for an early racing driver. Not a crazy person, but a truly crazy and brilliant project. This is GM Eveyone back in 1996. And this car was really groundbreaking. It set a lot of the technology we're still using in electric vehicles, solid-state inverters, a lot of very clever tech in here. And a lot of controversy around this vehicle. There's a fantastic TV program, or now you can find it on YouTube, Who Killed the Electric Car, all about this car. Lots of myths, lots of legend, but a truly amazing project, especially for a company like GM back in the 90s, which was a rather staid, traditional car maker. But I can't talk about crazy folks, especially in this part of the world, without putting up this slide. So I don't know if there's any Tesla folks in the audience, but when I say crazy about Mr. Musk and Tesla, we say it with a lot of respect at Byton. We're big fans of Tesla. This is crazy in a good way. Anybody who can set up the first American automotive company since 1923, gets big respect. Anyone who can launch a car into orbit, anyone who can do something as crazy as the Cybertruck, we give big love and respect to our friends and competitors from Tesla. But it's got to be said, Mr. Musk, he's sometimes a controversial figure, right? So speaking of controversial figures, let's talk about this guy. So Carlos Ghosn, so he doesn't come across as crazy as Elon Musk. I mean, look at the guy. He's wearing a very sensible businessman suit, okay? And now he's in a little bit of a controversial situation. He's effectively in house arrest in Japan. But way back in 2008, that's 11 years ago, right? EV prehistory, this guy took a $4 billion bet on developing EVs. Back then, that was crazy. And I invite you to look back at what some of the other car makers said at the time. They were laughing at Nissan and Renault, saying these guys are, they've gone nuts. By the way, it was a very good bet because the Alliance has not only launched a full range of vehicles, but those vehicles make money. Full disclosure, the reason I know that is this guy was my boss for 25 years. Before joining Byton, I worked for Nissan and Renault at this time when these projects were launched. And I had the honor of being the chief vehicle engineer for one of these vehicles, the cute one. And if you're wondering which one is the cute one, it's the little French one here. So that's my baby. I have a soft spot for that one. So, all right. Hopefully I've made the point that to launch yourself into this world of EVs, you have to be a bit crazy, okay? But the question is, why? Why do you have to be crazy? Why does it attract risk takers, misfits, crazy people? And the reason is because it's really, really hard, okay? And you might say, whoa, 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 hang on. What's this guy talking about? EVs are easy, right? They're just batteries and motors. So what's this guy saying? EVs are hard. Well, this is a subject where myths have grown up. Over 100 years of EV history now, but especially in the last 10 years, there are various myths which have grown up around EVs. I could make a long list. I've decided just to focus on 3, okay? First myth. Anyone can buy some batteries and an electric motor and wire them together, right? Some of you may have done it with your kids with radio-controlled cars, so how hard can it be, right? They don't need cooling because those motors are super efficient. They don't heat much, so cooling them's got to be easy. Even the brakes, everybody knows that an electric motor, when it runs in reverse, it becomes a generator and it slows the car down. And all of these myths together have created a misconception, which is, well, EVs have got to be easier than internal combustion engine vehicles, so the barriers to entry have got to be a lot lower, right? So a bunch of startups like Byton are going to come along and kill the traditional car makers. And this myth has kind of gathered momentum over the last 10 years. So modestly this morning, I want to put on my Mythbusters hat. Unfortunately, it ain't true. So we've got to address a few of these myths and show that it's a little bit harder than you might think at first sight. But the reason these myths endure and the reason that they kind of propagate themselves is there's a grain of truth. They're kind of sticky. They're hard to destroy. So let's have a look at a few of those that I just mentioned. So first one, anyone can buy a battery and stick it in an electric vehicle. That's true, right? So this kind of bluish, purplish block here, that's a battery module. We at Byton buy them from a company called CATL. There's excellent technology also sold by LG, Samsung, Panasonic. Yeah, you can buy them. You folks can go out and buy them. But putting them in a vehicle is a little bit more difficult. So this is a simulation of our vehicle undergoing the FMVSS, the North American Pole Strike Impact, okay? which simulates what happens if the driver loses control of the car, it spins, and it hits a metal post, or a wooden post, or a tree. This is what happens. Now, for decades, car engineers have designed the cars to be safe, to protect the human being in these kind of accidents. So the technology to do this and protect you folks is well known. But here's a fact that might shock you, okay? These batteries are quite delicate, and in certain circumstances, they're even more delicate than the human body, okay? So in a side impact like this, lateral deceleration, your body can take up to 80 G deceleration for a very short period of time. I'm talking milliseconds, okay? Over 80 G, you start to break ribs and you start to be injured. But that battery can only take 60 G. So the engineers not only have to protect the human beings now, but you really, really have to protect that battery, because if you rupture that battery, or the cooling systems associated with it, or the high voltage bus bars, bad things happen. So yeah, you can buy a battery, but before you stick it in a vehicle and sell it to the public, you kind of have to know a lot about structural engineering, safety engineering, or things can go very bad very quickly. All right, I can see you're glazing over a little bit, so we'll do a little bit of math. See which of you paid attention in high school, okay? So, cooling. All right, it's not as scary as it looks. The energy to cool something is proportional to the mass of the fluid I'm using to cool it and the delta temperature, the gap in temperature, okay? Best way to illustrate this, I was going to get a prop with a cup of coffee, okay? Cup of coffee, if it's too hot, what do? You blow on it, right? So what you're doing there is you're moving fluid, air, across the coffee. The more you blow, the more mass you're moving. The hotter the coffee is, the more the delta temperature, the quicker it's going to cool down, okay? Same principle for cooling vehicles. But here's the trick with EVs. An internal combustion engine runs typically with a coolant temperature maybe 100, 105 degrees centigrade. You'll forgive me, I'm a European, I do centigrade, okay? Or Celsius. So that means even if I have a really hot day in Arizona, it's 45 degrees outside, I've got a delta temperature around 60 degrees. That's not the case with EVs. So those highly efficient electric motors might be running at just 60 degrees. So I've got a delta temperature of only 15 degrees. So what does that mean? To cool it, I need to move a lot of air. So this myth about electric vehicles not needing air intakes is totally false. In fact, you need to move more air. So to achieve these designs, which look like they've got no air intakes, there's a lot of trickery going on. Engineers have to engineer in hidden slots. Behind the fascias of these vehicles, there's often multiple and very high power fans to positively pull the air through. So this myth about, well, you don't need to cool them, totally wrong. It gets even trickier. They're also harder to heat. Most of you folks will have arrived today probably in an internal combustion engine vehicle, okay? We're in California, so not all of you, but most of you will have done that. And those internal combustion engines, they produce a lot of heat. That's very convenient for keeping us warm in the winter. So that makes it a lot easier in summer. But an electric vehicle, it's actually harder to cool as well. So engineers have a double challenge. And thermal engineers working on EVs know that they're much more complex than internal combustion engines. Second part of that myth, so everybody thinks, well, and you see this written many places, well, there's much less moving parts in an EV. It's simply wrong, okay? Cooling systems. This is the cooling system in your typical internal combustion engine. It's pretty simple. You've got an engine, you've got a radiator. If you've got a turbocharged car, you probably have an intercooler to cool the air going into the turbo. This is a typical EV. So you've got to cool the motors. You've got to cool high voltage systems like onboard chargers, DC-DC converters. And here's the tricky bit. That battery we talked about earlier, that needs to be cooled also. But batteries also don't like when they're too cold. So sometimes you got to heat them. So the systems are considerably more complex. Last illustration, brakes. So again, this myth that, well, the motors slow the cars down. That's partially true. But let's look at the brake system in the car you arrived here today. So the internal combustion engine, great piece of kit. It produces heat that I can warm the occupants with. And it also produces vacuum. It's a vacuum pump. The intake manifold sucks air. So this piece of kit was invented in 1927. It's the vacuum servo. So we use the vacuum from the brakes to assist the brake system. So even if your engine fails, you're driving along the freeway, 70 miles an hour, your engine fails, you have enough vacuum energy in this box to carry out 2 or 3 brake cycles and bring your car safely to a halt, okay? And that's why your brake pedal feels super hard if you ever try braking with the engine off, because you've got no vacuum. Now let's talk about an electric vehicle. Guess what? We've got no vacuum because we've got no internal combustion engine. So you're now driving down the freeway in your vehicle with a 400-volt battery powering the vehicle. What happens if the battery fails? What happens if the 12-volt battery is also flat at the same time? These are major engineering challenges in terms of redundancy of hardware, software protocols, and the braking systems in EVs start to approach the level of complexity of aerospace technology a few years ago. And engineers have to think very, very carefully about the failure modes and about multiple failure modes. All right, I didn't want all that to scare you because there's good news. There's good news and bad news, okay? The good news is over the last 10 years or so, engineers have solved these problems because there's a bunch of EVs running around perfectly safely today. So engineers are very inventive people, and these problems have been solved. But the bad news is, until now, this has taken so much bandwidth of the engineering community's intelligence that we haven't really been able to offer a different experience to the customer, especially inside the vehicle. And this is where I switch modestly to what we think our company is doing differently. So what's Byton doing that maybe will set it apart from some of the vehicles you know already? And the best illustration of that is this picture. So these are all very modern EVs launched in the last couple of years. And what's remarkable is they kind of look like the vehicles we've been driving for the last 5 or 6 decades. Yeah, they're EVs. You get in, you shut the door. They accelerate very well. They don't make any noise, but I have an experience pretty much like all the vehicles I grew up with. I've got this conventional T-shaped layout with the cooling systems here, the center console, which was quite useful when I had a stick shift back in the 30s or 40s. And engineers have not yet been able to break that paradigm until, I should have a drum roll here now probably. Thank you, sir. So Adam already set me up. So this is the interior of a Byton. And by the way, this is not a concept picture. This is our production vehicle. And it just looks different probably to anything you've seen before. And yeah, the wow factor is this huge 48-inch display. But actually, there's a lot more going on here. Our engineers have deeply thought about the interaction with the vehicle. And I won't go through all the layers, but there's a 5-layer UI, UX, human-machine interface, call it what you will, but the way of interacting with the vehicle is truly different to any vehicle you've ever sat in before. And lots of technology going on around that. And I'm just going to go back one slide just to underline that point. This huge screen, it's not just for the driver. So one of the technologies we've worked on is to make sure that you can see this screen comfortably from the rear seats. The front seats in this vehicle swivel together by 10 degrees, okay? First in a production car for many, many decades. That's not just a gimmick. That's very fundamentally rooted in the philosophy of what we're trying to do here. So again, for the last 7 decades, you could even argue the last century, engineers have been obsessed with the driver's experience, okay? The guy or the girl behind the wheel. All of the rest of us in the car, well, we're just 75 kilos of baggage, right? We don't care about you. That's changing very, very fast. We want to have a good experience for everybody in the car, be they in the passenger seat, be they in the back seat. So it really is changing from a driver-centric experience to a user-centric experience. And, you know, full disclosure, I'm a car guy. I've spent all my life doing this. I love cars. I know the 0 to 60 figures, the horsepower figures, the torque figures. I can talk, ride and handling until I will bore you to death. But I know I'm a dinosaur. This is changing really, really fast. So you probably know the horsepower of your car today. Tomorrow you're going to know the data power. We can talk about handling, on the limit handling, but actually what's going to be far more relevant is what experience am I having in the car? Am I bored? Performance is going to become, am I connected? Because increasingly our experience of vehicles is I'm stuck on the 101 for an hour and a half in bad traffic. If anyone's been in downtown Shanghai on a Friday night, you're not that worried about your 0 to 60 times, but you definitely want your data, you want to be able to stream your music, you want to be able to maybe make a Skype call or a call to your family. If you think this sounds futuristic, trust me, if we're in Shanghai now talking to 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, or even teens who are going to be buying these cars, this has already happened. Already happened. So the next question is, all right, all of that's very cool, but why are we doing this? Now, we're doing it through passion, okay? We're doing it because we love it, but we're also doing it because there's a very sensible business reason to do this. Now, these numbers are approximate. Please don't take them as gospel, but I'm talking about electric vehicles. But electric vehicles and super connected electric vehicles are going to open the doors to massive business opportunities. Be that in digital services. We can talk about mobility as a service. Again, it's actually happening. If we were in Shanghai and we had to get across Shanghai today, we would not take a taxi. We'd take a Didi. We're not going to take the train. It's already happening. And a massive opportunity around smart cities. Again, we're seeing that being driven very hard in China, but not only in China, we're seeing it happening in the Middle East, and we're seeing it happening in North America as well. So as well as being complete geeks at Byton, we love what we're doing, but we also have our feet on the ground in terms of business. We're doing this because we believe there are huge business opportunities for us all. All right, so I'm not going to go through all these logos, but the message we want to pass here is Byton is not one of those EV companies that think we're the best at everything. We don't think doing it in-house is always the best solution. And we're very, very happy and very open to partnerships. That's why we're so delighted to be invited today. Be that with investors, because like you guys, we're a startup. So we need investment, as we all do. Be that with people from the tech space, digital ecosystem, or be that with partners from the traditional car industry background. You can see names like Bosch for AC, etc. So we're very open to talk and very, very happy to talk to you folks after the presentation. So at this stage, people tend to glaze over again and think, yeah, here's another dude from an EV company talking about some fancy car that will never see the light of day. We get it. So the car on the left here is the concept car we showed in CES early 2018 with that big screen. And yeah, we got the correct reaction, which was, yeah, it's cool, but they'll never do it, okay? The vehicle on the other side is a pre-production vehicle that we built on October 22nd, to be precise. And I think you can agree with me, it's pretty similar. Yep, we had to put rear view mirrors on it because it's still illegal in certain countries not to have them. But generally, we think we've kept our promise, and we've kept our promise especially with the interior of the vehicle. Now, I picked that picture on your right here. You can see it's not in some fancy auto show or in some, photograph setup. It's in a plant. You can see the guys working behind. You can see a vacuum machine here, because that vehicle was built in a real production plant. And this is our production plant in Nanjing, China. And again, we're rather unusual as a startup, because we are a startup, like many of you folk. But as Adam rightly said, the car industry is a very capital-intensive industry, so we're a startup with a massive factory. To give you an idea of the scale, we're basically talking about a kilometer by a kilometer here. So that's a 300,000 vehicle capability per year. It's just finished in Nanjing, China. If any of you folks happen to be passing through the Nanjing area, we'd be happy to show you around. And it's ready to go. And our pre-production vehicles already rolling, and production vehicles for the China market middle of next year. All right. Last slide. So again, it's the time of year where we start to think about CES. And our thermal engineers, the guys I was talking about, that their life is so hard, were doing some testing in Death Valley recently, and they said, well, boss, we got to go to Vegas, because they claim that Vegas is a good test ground for stop-start traffic. I'm not sure if that was their only reason for going to Vegas, but whatever. So we've already been in Vegas testing a few weeks back, and we'll be there again at CES with some pretty cool stuff on our stand and in our booth. So if any of you folks are in Vegas in a few weeks, please do come and say hello. That's it, folks. As I said, I'm very happy if we've got time to take a few questions, but myself and Leo, please stand up, Leo. Leo's from our BDS team. Very happy to talk to any of you folks. We'll wait until the end of the session. We may not be able to stay for lunch, but we'll certainly stay around to talk to you and say hello. And thank you very much for your attention. So I don't know how we managed the timing, but if you folks are okay to take a few questions, I'm happy to do it. Good question. So, in case anybody didn't hear it, the question from the boss is, how much money have we raised so far? So I can answer that question from what we've published already. So our AB round, we raised something over 200 million and something over 500 in the second round. So short answer to your question is 820 million. So that's a big amount of money, but folks who know the car industry here knows that you still need more. It's a very, very capital-intensive business, so we're still in fundraising mode as we speak.
If anybody else has any questions, just feel free to raise your hand. We can get you a mic.
Hello. For your Byton 2.0, I haven't seen hydrogen or H2 as an option. Could you elaborate a bit on this?
Great question. So one of our strategies is we prefer to concentrate on one thing and do it well. So for example, that plant I showed you, it's designed and built to build EVs, not hybrids, not fuel cell vehicles, EVs. Now, I'm not saying H2 does not have an application. I certainly think it has a future in heavy goods vehicles, for example. But for mass market passenger vehicles, we think the battery electric vehicle is a good bet for the 10, 15, possibly 20 years ahead. Hydrogen definitely in larger vehicles, but mass market EVs, we think BEVs are the way forward, and we're concentrating on that one play rather than dispersing over several technologies.
So you have a very nice presentation, beautiful vision for the future of automotive. You talked about the interior of the car. If you stand back and look at the Chinese consumer and other competitors, what about your offering is truly differentiable?
On the exterior or the interior?
The total value proposition. What would compel a Chinese car purchaser to buy it?
Right, so let me talk about the classic. You walk around the car, you open it, you sit in. There have been studies done over the years that show that people make up their minds in under 60 seconds, even subconsciously. So first answer to your question is, externally, you can see the car is relatively conventional, a little bit like the silhouettes that Adam showed us with the Cybertruck breaking the mold. We haven't done that. So the vehicle is attractive, we believe, but relatively reassuring from the outside, because even though the Chinese consumer does like the latest gadget, they still like a certain conventional look for the vehicle. Again, don't forget, we're not selling this as a niche vehicle. We want to hit big volumes. But then, to answer your question, the USP, the wow factor, is when you open the door and you get hit by that huge screen and you sit in. So if the short answer to your question is the in-car experience. That's what we hope is going to set us apart. And we're concentrating a lot of our resources, both financial and human, into that, what happens when you shut the door and you turn on the vehicle. Of course, you don't have to turn it on. It turns on itself, of course.
Over here. Hi, Brian Allman. Just on that last question, for anybody who's ever sat in that vehicle, It's amazing. It's unlike anything else in market. So I applaud your efforts there.
Thank you, Brian. I'll give you the $10 later.
I'll take it. I'm raising money too. I'm curious about your production dates and what would be a successful first-year run for you.
So I'm going to answer your first question. I'm going to dance for your second question and give you a politician's answer for the second question.
Well, we're all watching. So.
And cameras are rolling. So production dates, mid-2020 for the China market. Launching in China first, it's just a mathematical game. It's the biggest market. North America, my boss wants me to hit end 2020. I'm saying, boss, it's going to be New Year 21. We'll fight it out between us. Europe will take us a little bit longer because the crash standards in Europe are different, Euro NCAP, etc. So our European friends will have to wait until probably mid-21. Now, on the question of what would we consider successful for volumes? Now, a certain EV company that starts with a T that's got a factory in Fremont continually get in trouble by committing to production dates and volumes and then not hitting them, right? So we have a different approach. We prefer to kind of under-promise and over-deliver. So that's my dancing sideways on your question. So we'll sell as many cars as we can, but we're not committing to specific volumes yet. All right. Thank you, folks.
All right, I think that's all we have time for. Thank you.
Thank you, David. You know, this was such a good presentation that I want to give you little antidote. I like stories. So we did an incredible project in Stuttgart. It's called Startup Autobahn. We think it's the best and the largest innovation platform in the world. And why do we say it's the best and the largest? Between Mercedes, Porsche, Volkswagen, we do 100 pilots per year between a startup and big OEM. And then, for example, one of our success stories is SoundHound, which used to be in this corner 11 years ago, did a big licensing agreement with Mercedes, and also Mercedes invested in SoundHound. I believe in less than 2 years, the technology was already inside the car. And talking about Mercedes, I was having lunch with Dr. Seche, and I asked him, Dr. Seche, he's the previous CEO of Mercedes, why did you invest in Tesla? And if, quite frankly, I think he invested $50 million in Tesla, and that sort of was the card Elon Musk needed to raise the other $500 million. He said, Saeed, our industry needs a wake-up call. You know, we've been talking about electric cars for a while, and I thought, and he also said some of the parts of Tesla come from Mercedes. So it was a business decision. Then here is the funny part. I said, Dr. Seche, why did you sell your shares? He says, anytime they give me $850 million for a $50 million investment in 2 years, I thought I am obligated to sell. So we had our expo in Stuttgart last year in February, and I walk into this, we have a lot of Mercedes, a lot of Porsches, but the front door, there was a Neo car, a SUV. And I said, my God, we're going to ruin our relationship, you know, because apparently they flew in the car from China and then they are not distributing it yet. But again, Mercedes specifically tells us they need to work faster. They need to collaborate with startups to be able to keep up with the change, how fast the industry is changing in the world. But I thought I'd tell you these 2 little stories, and then I give it back to my boss.
Thank you, Saeed, and thank you, David, previously for the very insightful presentation. Let's give these both gentlemen a warm round of applause. I would also like to thank all of you guys for being here today, because simply without you, this event would not have been possible. So one more time, let's put our hands together for all of us here in the room. Today is the third and the last day of the Winter Summit here at Plug and Play 2019, and we have a very exciting lineup of startups prepared for you. I think we should jump right into it and hear what these great entrepreneurs have to share today. And the first up today will be Jimmy, who happens to be coming all the way from Egypt. Jimmy, I'm very sorry that you have to experience all this rain this week, but there's a good thing about that. It means that everyone's going to be inside, everyone's going to be mingling together, and we will have a very successful networking session. But now, without any further ado, please welcome Jimmy from Drive.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jimmy, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Drive. Drive is the first and leading peer-to-peer car-sharing platform in the Middle East. The easiest way to think about us is think Airbnb for cars, but in a much more complicated market. We launched in Egypt in 2018 in partnership with AXA and Uber, and we plan to expand regionally throughout the next 18 months. Those of you who are familiar with the region may know that Egypt is arguably one of the toughest markets in the world to do business in. Its rental market in specific is categorized by very inefficient pricing. Most transactions go unrecorded in the parallel gray economy with no real system. What we did is build a unique API with Contact Cars, the leading second-hand car marketplace in the country, and categorize vehicles based on their market value. Moreover, only 15% of the population have bank accounts, and only 5% of those have credit cards. We were faced with the enormous challenge of building a fair and secure payment system that runs purely on cash. We did this by pioneering with Fawry, the leading payment provider in the country, and creating a hybrid cash-in and cash-out model to manage the dues between all the three parties. The rental car market in general is categorized by being very, very paper intensive. And despite being in a country which not only complements that but encourages it, we vow to create a 100% digitalized process from start to finish. Everything from registration all the way up to the pickup and drop of the vehicle is done straight through the app. Even in the event of a claim, it can be submitted through the application's UI and sent directly from our backend. Of course, none of this would have been possible without our strong and robust partnerships with AXA and Uber. With AXA, we almost innocently revolutionized the insurance industry in the Middle East. We launched the first of its kind pay-as-you-drive insurance policy to the region and the first ever digitalized claim process in Egypt. And to do this in a country where only 8% of cars are insured was truly remarkable. On the other side of things, our partnership with Uber not only gives us credibility when asking owners to give us our cars, but more importantly, gives us access to a plethora of demand of thousands of drivers, week in and week out, who constantly need a vehicle. And because the more drivers rent cars from Uber, from Drive, the more trips they make with Uber, we do this at zero customer acquisition cost. So what did all of this translate into? We've been experiencing double-digit growth on our car and trip days, and more than doubling in terms of our drivers. The total addressable market in Egypt is 10 million cars, and we aim to reach 60,000 of those by the end of 2020. Aside from our growth in Egypt, we have two clear strategic plans for expansion. First and foremost, leveraging on our partnership with Uber, we aim to go hand in hand with the ride-hailing giant to 37 other cities in the region where they have similar problems in. Over and beyond that, our ever-growing retail business, we aim to revolutionize car ownership over the white canvas that is the Middle East. Since our inception, we've raised $1.25 million, actually 550 of which we just closed last month, buoying on the momentum from this amazing program. And we're currently in the market for $2 million. These are my contact details below. Thank you for your time, and thank you Plug and Play for an amazing 3 months. A special shout out to Aziz and Angie for amazing program managers. Thanks.
Thank you, Jimmy. Next up, we will have Jillian, who was on Israeli Ninja Warrior and also happens to be the Israeli national powerlifting champion. Please welcome Jillian from Gardnox.
Good morning. Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm Jillian Goldberg from Gardnox, and I run marketing and investor relations. So before I get started, I wanted to wake you guys up a little bit.
Car in a 2-mile radius now. There's over 1,000 of them. Hack them all. It's zombie time.
So Guardnox is an automotive cybersecurity company, and this is what we see in the cinema about what happens when we hack vehicles. But what happens in reality? What you have right now is a hacker. He's scanning for a code from an RKE, a key fob, to enter a vehicle. He's able to get that from the front door of the home. This is in England, just so you know, that's why he's running around the other side of the car. And then he's able to gain access and actually drive off with that vehicle. So a little bit about Guardnox. We all are coming from the Israeli Air Force, where we actually built the cyber defense systems in our fighter jets as well as our missile defense systems. This is not a PowerPoint technology. This actually works, protecting the critical assets of the state of Israel. We took that same technology methodology developed in defense aviation and brought it directly to the automotive industry, albeit with the automotive price tag. A little bit about our company. We are based worldwide in the EU, here in the US as well. We have various OEM engagements. We were a part of Startup Audubon 2 years ago, and we are a very proud portfolio company of Plug and Play. We develop a secured and high-performance computing platform within the vehicle. We like to say we speak 2 languages of both hardware and software, and we have various lines of different products in our portfolio. We are not a traditional IT cybersecurity solution. Because we come from defense aviation, we're looking to protect safety-critical systems as well. Using the communication matrix and the ECU specifications, we're able to build a mathematical and verifiable model around appropriate communication. Now, what really excites me about cybersecurity is actually what cybersecurity can empower OEMs and end consumers to do, and that's with our services-oriented architecture. The idea that cybersecurity is the foundational level for added levels of connectivity within our vehicle. And this is our patent on the services-oriented architecture, where we're actually able to serve as that platform for added application hosting, an increase to your horsepower, to your traction, etc. In effect, it's the iPhoneization of the automotive industry, where we're able to convert a driver to a subscriber of services. I would love to continue this conversation with you guys later. I will be at CES as well, so would love to book some meetings. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jillian. Our next presenter loves pretzels and beer, and he says that after you see the demo, you will understand why. Never have I ever been more excited to see a demo than I am right now. Please welcome Dee Tamar from Empathy.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thanks. Good to be here. At Empathy AI, we develop a virtual ride attendant that supports and entertains passengers in shared mobility. We support all sorts of shared vehicles like car sharing, ride hailing, and autonomous pilots. Unfortunately, the passengers don't treat these vehicles as nice as their private property. Sometimes they forget stuff, sometimes they mess up the cabin, or sometimes they break stuff with intention. For example, cleaning of smoke damage accounts for around $1 per ride. And in autonomous, this gets even worse. Imagine a girl and a drunk guy sharing a ride at night. And we solve that problem with a virtual ride attendant. This is a digital AI-based digital assistant that supports the passengers, entertains them. It's like a taxi driver, but just a great taxi driver. Our system is an AI system, has 3 components. The first component uses cameras and microphones so it can see and understand the situation. Let's say it sees a passenger pulling out a cigarette pack. The second component can, based on that information, interact with the passenger. So in this example, it would talk to the passenger and tell him that smoking is not a good idea. The third component is covering all sorts of learning and passenger behavior that can be used for product improvement by OEMs, fleet operators, insurance companies. So this is all cutting-edge AI, and we cover a wide range of features like notifying about left-behind objects, mitigating violence, or very personal location-based services. Our virtual ride attendant helps operators to cut cost and make extra revenue. We tap into the mobility as a service market, and this accounts for a CAGR of 50%. In the year 2025, the expectation for the need for virtual ride attendant is expected around $1 billion. We see a great demand for our product. We have completed 2 POCs with a major OEM and a global tier 1 already, and we have pulls for 3 more POCs. Early next year, we plan to roll out in the fleet on the road, have 2 pilots with 2 customers that will step-by-step roll out to more than 3,000 vehicles. By the end of next year, we plan to have additional 2 fleets on the road. To unlock this volume rollout, we plan to have a seed route in a few weeks. This is our team. We all have a technical background, computer science, robotics. For the last years, we worked at Bosch and developed in-cabin solutions, innovations. And we brought our demo vehicle. You're invited to check it out yourself. Please see us, contact us on Umbrella. You will get an inside view to this demo vehicle, and you will get a free pretzel. So, you're welcome. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee Tamar. Next up, we will have Ezra, who undoubtedly is an expert in all things related to fleet management, from tracking, from overall vehicle analytics to maintenance. Please welcome Ezra from FleetUp.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ezra. I'm the CEO and founder of FleetUp. FleetUp is the innovative fleet management system platform, and we provide real-world problem solution to the fleet industry. So fleet industry is huge and growing fast, including area of the logistics, construction, oil and gas, and also service industry and insurance and rental services. But the fleet industry is still on the behind on digitalization, and there is recently lots of market challenges grown, and including this supply chain visibility, ELD driver safety, and digitalization platform, and in the future, the fleet the service automation too. But most of the fleet company, they have used unreliable solutions, and they're very limited in engineering capability. Because of that, in FleetUp, we provide full service and then all-in-one platform with the professional resources. The game has changed. The fleet company have used limited solutions such as GPS or asset tracking, but now they have to use the open innovation mobility service platform to cover all of their growing business demands. So with FleetUp, we provide over 95 features in a single platform to cover all different types of vehicles, and also provide daily and everyday fleet operation in a solution to their customers. And customers use all of FleetUp data to integrate to their back office system to increase their business customer service level. So FleetUp devices solutions are very different. It's a very reliable and ruggedized. And with all of these different devices, we cover all different types of the vehicles and all different types of the asset, trailer, container, equipment, and also temperature monitoring, and then 360 online dash cam, and also drop-proof driver tablet too. So not only the device and then online platform, but also provide very direct financial benefit to the customers, including fuel cost saving, and also AI driver coaching, and then real-time maintenance in the platform services too. So FleetUp, we provide large scale of the fleet management system solution for the customer productivities and compliance and fleet optimization and big data use. So if you want to transform your fleet business to the next level, you need to have this in much of the solution, and then that's how you can digitalize your order, the vehicle, and then company businesses. So you can replace your company name here to access all of these flexible, scalable, expandable solutions. I prepared 1-minute video. Let's watch this.
Welcome to FleetUp. Your total on-duty time is 20 minutes.
So Fluido is the Silicon Valley SaaS solution company with a full-stack engineering team. We have a business in US, Mexico, and Chile. We solve the fluid industry's real-world problem, but that's just a starting point. We work with our customer and partner. We are looking for the customers enterprise company to work together. We want to provide a platform to them. And we have a second floor demo booth, and then our office located in San Jose, just 10 minutes from here. Anytime, feel free to contact us and visiting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ezra. Interestingly, our next presenter, Cece, used to be a co-owner of a martial arts school. Now she's using the same tactics and spirit to run her company, Metalmark. So please welcome Cece.
Thanks, Giannis. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Cece Liu. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Metalmark Innovations. At Metalmark, we're turning toxic fumes into breathable air. Every year, air pollution is responsible for 7 million deaths, and it costs the global economy $5 trillion of lost economic value. And you might think that this is a problem with just ambient outdoor air pollution, but that's actually not true. So in fact, a lot of the damage is caused by poor indoor air quality. So our interior air inside of our vehicles to homes and offices can actually be 5 times worse than outdoor air. And these air pollutants fall into 2 major categories: volatile organic compounds like formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen, and particulate matter. And together, they cause cancer, they trigger heart attacks, and lead to a variety of chronic illnesses like asthma. And with the emerging megatrends toward ride-sharing and robocabs, we're also seeing new issues with controlling odors inside of vehicles. And what do we do with that right now? We mask those odors with more chemicals. So at Metalmark, we've developed a nanostructured material to break down chemical toxins into breathable air. Our technology was first inspired by material found in butterfly wings, like the Metalmark. As you can see from this zoomed-in photo, the material of butterfly wings are made of honeycomb-like structures, and it's this structuring that provides them with their iridescent colors, the lightness and the strength to enable flight, and they help to have other functions like the ability to repel water. So originally, we were just trying to replicate the colors that this material structuring creates, and we were very successful. As you can see at the bottom, our material is beautiful to look at, but we didn't just want to make jewelry. So with more R&D, we functionalized our material as a catalytic material to break down toxins in the air. We have multiple ways to incorporate the material into different form factors for different applications inside of vehicles and other buildings. So compared with existing technologies, we can target formaldehyde and other targeted compounds with very high cost efficiency and durability with no creation of toxic secondary pollutants. We plan to go to market by first targeting air purification applications and then going beyond that into pollution control and other types of mobility-related applications. So recently, we were successful at making our very first prototype sale to a major multinational company. I'm very proud to say that we have a well-rounded team to ensure the success of Metalmark. I bring nearly 20 years of experience in entrepreneurship and clean tech. My co-founders include serial entrepreneurs and leaders in material science. Since spinning out of Harvard University, we've actually bootstrapped on $340,000 of non-dilutive funding, and very recently we we secured investment from the BMW Group, Mini, and Urban Us. So we're currently seeking $1 million in investment to help build our prototypes, to improve our prototype production line, and increase our customer pipeline. If you're interested in talking to us more, finding out more, or seeing some of the samples, please come find us at the table upstairs. Thank you so much to all of you and Plug and Play.
Thank you very much, Cece. Next up on stage, we will have Christopher, who back in the day during his graduate school used to compete in archery tournaments. Now, let's see what he's aiming for with his next company, Weave 3D. Let's welcome Chris.
Morning, everyone. My name is Chris Oberste. I'm the CEO of Weave 3D. We are an advanced manufacturing technology company that is commercializing new composite manufacturing processes. So what we want to tell you is that weight is a problem sort of across the board. And what most people don't realize is that most lightweight materials are not just a function of the material cost, but also the process cost to produce the part using that material. Since this is a mobility day, we're going to focus on the automotive side of this equation. And I want to show you a comparison between a 1969 Ford LTD and a 2019 Ford Taurus. Despite all of the plastics and new materials that have gone into newer cars since 1969, the Taurus is actually heavier than the 1969 LTD. And the reason for that is that customers expect more safety, more technology in the vehicle, and this directly impacts the vehicle's fuel economy. A change of 10% of the weight of the vehicle affects the fuel economy by 6 to 8%. And we come into this by offering a cost-effective solution to vehicle weight reduction, which allows automakers to comply with fuel economy requirements globally, as well as to improve things like electric vehicle range and allow them to downsize some of those batteries and motors that they use in the vehicle. So what you can see from a baseline structure, we're able to offer a cost per pound saved benefit that is under the industry target of $2.50 per pound saved, which is not something that's currently available with traditional composites today. We have a rebar for plastics approach where we produce a low-density composite lattice structure that is combined with traditional injection or compression molding to create a lightweight structural part at significantly lower cost. And we have a full-scale pilot machine capable of producing lattice structures up to 1.5 meters wide for full-scale automotive part prototyping. To give you some examples of where our technology can be used, we have plenty of opportunities for metal displacement of existing sheet metal stamped parts. And on the interior of the vehicle, there's also a lot of opportunity to enhance currently produced plastic components to become a structural member of the vehicle and eliminate metallic support structures. We actually have a project in collaboration with Ford and a number of material suppliers to do a proof of concept for an IP carrier panel. And this is actually looking at enhancing that IP carrier, which is a plastic part, to eliminate some of the metallic support and the crosscar beam that's underneath that in order to enhance interior space and reduce assembly complexity. And if you guys want to learn anything more, we have a booth upstairs, so we're happy to talk to you there. And you can also just shoot us an email at info@weave3d.com. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Chris. Our next presenter coined the term Rejuligans to refer to Rejual's team members. Now let's welcome one of the main Rejuligans on stage, Zora.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zora Chung, Rejual's co-founder and CFO. Our hardware and software platform for battery management helps automakers maximize the value of their electric vehicle batteries. And this is important because the current ways of predicting a battery's life are flawed. This causes problems downstream in the battery's entire life cycle. Unreliable validation tests cause automakers to oversize batteries to meet safety standards and warranty requirements. During maintenance, there's still no oil change equivalent for an EV. And have you ever thought about how you would repurpose a used battery if you couldn't tell how long it would last? The solution is to track the battery's health across its lifetime with our battery management system, or BMS. It's the battery's command center that monitors and ensures safe and optimal operations. Our BMS is unique because our hardware can measure an additional and critical health metric in the real world. This allows our software to create more precise algorithms that can optimize the performance of every cell in a battery pack. This puts Rejoule in a unique position to help automakers make batteries cheaper by reducing the need to oversize, make them safer by helping to prevent battery fires, and create more targeted warranties by grading new and used batteries based on their remaining lifetime. Our first revenues will come from pilot projects with automakers, where we expect to generate between $50,000 to $200,000 in revenue per project. This varies because it depends if we're doing lab testing to characterize their battery modules versus integrating our BMS into a prototype vehicle for real-time health diagnostics. Long-term, our vision is to create a chip that automakers can embed into every EV. Our hardware is our competitive advantage. Most companies take the software-based approach and leverage machine learning for their prediction models. While highly scalable, these solutions will always be less accurate and require historical data, which is a challenge for new batteries. There are other hardware-based startups that also offer high accuracy. Based on our research, we require less expensive components, and our solution is more modular, making it more cost-effective to scale for the millions of EVs in our future. We already have a lab-tested prototype and patent-pending status on our hardware. We've proudly raised almost $400,000 in non-dilutive grants, and we have a contract pending with a major automaker. All this was done in-house with our talented team of engineers led by our CEO, Steven. He has a master's in electrical engineering from the University of Toronto and came up with our core IP. He recruited me, his older sister, to lead the business side because I bring over a decade of experience in corporate finance and strategy. Next year, we'll be raising a $3 million seed round to build up our testing capacity and reduce the size and cost of our hardware. This will set us up to raise our Series A 18 months later to design and test our first silicon. Thank you so much for your time, and if you have any questions, I'm also upstairs in a booth. Thank you, Plug and Play, for having us.
Thank you very much, Zora. Next up on stage, we will have Arman. Arman once was a body double for no one else but Russell Crowe in a video which was shot in Iceland. So now, please welcome Arman, or Russell Crowe? No, Arman. Arman from Greenwald.
Hi. So imagine a future where you can drive your electric car on a single charge across the entire US. Or imagine that the phone you're holding in your hands that's constantly out of batteries has a battery life of a month. That's the future we're building with Greenwald. We're building the battery of tomorrow today. Batteries are basically, technology innovation is being capped by bad batteries. We think Greenwald batteries are solid-state batteries that charge super fast, that last longer, and they don't harm the human or the environment. The secret sauce of getting energy surface area in batteries is nanoparticles. And we make those nanoparticles in a scalable and cost-effective way. And what's really interesting is we can start hiding those particles within the structure of the device we're powering. So imagine that airplane wing on your airplane being one giant battery. Or imagine that the hood of your car stores energy as you're driving it. And if you look at the average electric vehicle, then, well, this is actually the wrong presentation here, okay. So you have the equivalent of 2 baby elephants in the back seat that are your batteries. And these guys are holding up the frame of the BMW i3 that includes basically carbon fiber material that can become a battery at the flip of a switch. So here's a little car driving around with our technology. So what we actually just did, because this is actually the wrong presentation, I was going to show you a video of an electric boat that we built in the Nordic countries, and we floated it last week. And it has 12 centimeters, if you put that battery material into a fishing vessel, it's 12 centimeters thick. You have the equivalent of 5 Teslas in that battery hull. And I'll show you the video upstairs if it's not playing here today. But it's an incredible opportunity to actually change the way that electric boats are made. And what we actually found out through that project is that you can pair it with lithium-ion batteries and triple the lifetime of those lithium-ion batteries by making our batteries handle the shorter trips and by making the faster charging elements of our batteries be what dominates it. So think about what that means for something like an electric bike that you can look and feel exactly like a road bike, or anything you put up into the air to be designed around aerodynamic flow instead of weight of the batteries. So we have an incredible team of entrepreneurs, visionaries, and scientists that are making this a reality, that have experience in nanotech and energy. And we have great backings from people like advisory board, from people like Mike Jackson and Eric Ries of the Lean Startup. And we have investors like Village Global, with investors like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Reid Hoffman behind us. So if you share our vision for that brighter tomorrow, please come talk to us and check us out upstairs so you can see the technology in action. Thank you so much. That was not my presentation at all.
Thank you, Armand, for a quick overview of Greenwald. Our next presenter today is a business and technology executive with a proven record managing multi-billion business lines in Fortune 100 companies. To hear more about what he's up to now, please welcome Dimitrios from Highlands Power.
Thank you. I don't think that I deserve this introduction, because what we are doing is something very, very small and very, very difficult. So let me start my presentation and say that we are a company, very small group of, I would say, crazy people that we decided to do something that is unthinkable. So we are not building a car, okay? What we are doing is that we are focusing on electric motors. And when we started about 3.5 years ago, everybody told us that, guys, this is crazy. I mean, this is technology, well-known, well-understood technology for 120 years. Everybody can master. What can you do? Well, I think that we can do a lot of stuff over here, and I think that you will find that very, very interesting, you know, how much we can push the technology, and not only theoretically, but also in practice. So, practically, we focus the company to build electric motors for electric vehicles, but also high-end electric motorcycles. The advantage, what the team has done, which is very, very different and reflects, you know, in all aspects, not only performance, also cost aspects of an electric motor, is that the same architecture with minor modifications, practically, you know, sometimes just bringing the architecture up or down, we can apply this technology and retrofit electric motors in everything from a small scooter to commercial vehicles to boats. We even had a very interesting discussion lately about providing our motors to a satellite company. Now, what makes our motor different? Imagine that you can put our motor in your car and you can drive 30% longer distances with the same set of batteries. For example, you know, your Model S can drive now 400 miles or even 450 miles instead of 300 miles. And how we do that? We do that with delivering fantastic performance. And what we can do very, very different than the others is that we deliver this performance at half the size, half the weight, and half the cost of anything else that you can find in the market. Where we stand? So, as I told you, we started about 3.5 years ago. The first thing that we had to do is to find somebody who can share the same crazy ideas that we had. And what we did is that we partnered with probably the most famous German research institute in the automotive space. And together we built the prototype. The prototype succeeded to prove that we can deliver the performance, the cost, and also the physical envelope of the motor that we have designed. What is next for us? We are looking for a strategic partner. And the reason that we would like to find a partner and we need a partner relatively quickly is because we already have a company that is willing to adopt our motor, not only to put them in their top model, but also to break the world speed record for electric motorbikes. It's a company here in California. Their name is Lightning Motors. And they already have the fastest commercial electric motorbike speed record of 218 miles an hour. Together, next June, we want to go to 300 miles an hour using our motors. And beyond that, these guys, they want to put our motors in all their motorbikes they are shipping today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next presenter, Miles, is the proud father of 2 children with learning disabilities, and he also is a strong supporter of any educational programs that would improve the quality and accessibility of educational programs for learning disabled kids. So now, to hear more about what he's working on at Actisys, please welcome Miles.
Good morning. My name is Miles Flammenbaum. I'm CEO of Actisys. Very pleased to have this opportunity to present to you today. As those of you in the audience can see, I wear glasses. The reason I wear glasses is to improve my perception, to give me the ability to interact with my environment, to see all of you. Cars wear glasses now too. Lots of different types of optical sensors are assisting cars to do the same thing, assist in their perception to allow them to interact with their environment. And they're getting a lot of glasses. As we go towards higher levels of assisted driving, as we reach towards fully autonomous vehicles, it requires a lot of pairs of glasses. For those of you who wear glasses, you will commiserate with me. When it rains and my glasses get wet, I can't see. It makes me crazy. But the easy part is that I can clean them just with a cloth. How do you clean the glasses on a vehicle? Can't stop it. It's not terribly convenient. And if the vehicle can't perceive its environment, it becomes a big safety issue, not only to the vehicle, but to passengers, everything around it. So what are the requirements to solve the problem of cleaning glasses for a vehicle? Well, you need something that's easy to integrate, doesn't use a lot of power. We've heard a lot about consumption of vehicle batteries today. Something that's not mechanical, so it doesn't fail. And ultimately, something that can work with, say, air and a cleaning spray to address all the different types of contamination that you might get on the surface of the glasses. Well, our solution to this is what we call ActiJet. And ActiJet are a series of just small cartridges. You apply electrical signal, and it's able to generate a very strong jet of air next to the sensor, so it's local. And it can create a spray, it can clean off different types of contaminants and dirt. And we've developed a suite of capabilities to understand how is it that the glasses on a car can get dirty and how we can apply our technology to solve it. And then we can take it out on the road and solve a need that has developed in the industry. And that need has become acute. We've completed POCs with an OEM and a tier 1. We're starting new ones with another OEM and a sensor company. And we have a deep pipeline, which happily includes 7 corporate partners from Plug and Play. So we're very pleased with the reception. And on top of that, literally today, we are signing a term sheet for majority commitments towards a $5 million seed round. So I'd be pleased to provide you more information about our capabilities and our ability to address this need in the industry with a solution that can be commercialized and solve a critical problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. The CEO of our next company, Mark, has filed multiple patents throughout his life and also was very much helpful with the invention of the taser. I hope you don't have a taser with you today, but I'm sure you have a good presentation about Atlas motor vehicles. So please, let's welcome Mark.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Hanchett, and as he mentioned, I am the CEO of Atlas Motor Vehicles. I really wanted to start this off with a bit of a story some of you are very familiar with. On Friday, we went up to a farm for one of our investors. We drove a Tesla Model 3 long range. The calculated distance to get home was 9 hours. We left at 9 o'clock in the morning to drive back to Phoenix. A little while later, as I carried my children and my wife up to bed, 19 and a half hours later, I realized that what we are doing here at Atlas Motor Vehicles and what we can do to individuals that experience over 140,000 hours of work every week is make that experience better. Technology, electrification, it must be a leap forward. And what we are doing here at Atlas Motor Vehicles is taking a very holistic approach. We are not just building a vehicle. We are focused on building the technology that makes it possible to compete with an F-250, an F-350, a work vehicle that today is very durable, it lasts a long ways, it can tow a lot, and more importantly, it can fill up quickly. We have developed battery technology as well as various other systems that have allowed us to actually demonstrate a proof of concept where we charged a battery in 12 minutes, 37 seconds. And we're applying this to the mobility space. Along with that, we're also developing charging technology that allows for a 1.5 megawatt power delivery in something that my 86-year-old grandmother could handle. Who are we selling this to? We're actually developing this technology for consumers, yes, but our primary target is really fleet owners, vehicle upfitters, heavy-duty manufacturers, people that use their vehicle for work, people that can, or companies that can benefit almost immediately. The keys to our success, obviously, is in the battery technology. We've actually developed a custom proprietary battery cell with advanced thermal management that allows us to accomplish some of our fast charging characteristics, combining that with some chemistry solutions. We're designing power systems that are modular and complex. So the gentleman from Byton mentioned the complexities of managing thermal management within the vehicle systems and the complexities of that. What if we could actually bring that down to something smaller, something that's modular, something that's easy to assemble and less cost to develop? Of course, we're looking at safe power. When I mentioned that 1.5 megawatt charging system, we have actually developed a conceptual approach to it as well as a cable design that allows us to have a 1.5 megawatt charging system that is the size of a CCS 2.0 connector. And of course, a modular architecture so we can reduce cost, speed time for development, and create a system that is expandable from pickup trucks to medium-duty long-haul vehicles. To date, we've raised a little over 1.07. It's actually about $1.2 million. We are actually closing on our $10 million seed round right now. And of course, we have reached over $1.2 billion in reservations for our pickup truck to date. That's not bad for a small company. We're not Tesla. We're not well known in the industry, but we've got a lot of following, including that $1.7 million came from our customer base. This is people that believe in us. Last year in October, I mentioned we did a 12-minute, 37-second charge time. That's an industry first. That's not 80%. That's 0 to full, and that's applicable to a battery pack size all the way up to 250 kilowatt hours. We are looking to raise funding currently as we look to build our first 100 vehicles and get those into customers' hands. And the use of those funds today will actually be used to grow our team. We're actually looking to hire about 67 additional engineers here over the next couple of months, as well as a couple hundred other people to follow that up. And we are seeking $100 million in funding for the next phase of development, as well as industry partners that are looking to help us accelerate this product to market. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Our next presenter loves reading science fiction, but his company is nothing but reality. Please welcome Umut from e-tron.
Hi, everyone. My name is Umut Genç. I'm a co-founder and CEO of e-tron Technologies. So e-tron is all about how to bring AI into automotive, how to get intelligent software running in production cars today. So let me start with a confession. Automotive industry has a big, serious software problem. Software was an issue when I started in automotive 20 years ago, and it is still an issue today. If you look into the software running in the cars today, if you look into the software in the electronic control units, you will see that there is very limited intelligence in there. And this problem is getting worse because OEMs need better electric cars, they need more autonomy, so that means they really need to get the intelligent software running in the cars today, and that's what we do. So e-tron develops AI-powered intelligent software, which is automotive grade and ready for production use in automotive. So we do that by developing a framework called Automotive Safe AI, registered to us. So where we combine machine learning expertise with automotive software development processes like V-cycle and functional safety. So once you have Automotive Safe AI, you can develop some great solutions for the industry. We know the two main pain points for OEMs. The first one is electrification, so that means they really need good battery management software, and that's what we do with BM Star. And also every OEM today needs a good production-grade L2 plus ADAS solution. They don't need level 4 today, but they need an L2 plus highway pilot. And in the center of our development is our SimStar, it's our digital lab, where we develop all of our AI neural networks, train them, test them, and validate them. So thanks to SimStar, we don't need a big validation fleet. So our battery management software is automotive grade with ASIL C functional safety certification. It has unique AI features. So we are the first ones bringing AI into a production-ready battery management system. And our level 2 plus highway pilot, again, is developed with Automotive Safe AI. It has all the features of a highway pilot. This is our demo car. So we use single camera and single radar. We try to avoid LiDAR because it's too expensive at the moment. We also develop automated lane change using deep reinforcement learning to have superior user experience. All the co-founders we are coming from automotive industry. Altogether, we have more than 80 years of experience. Our head of AI is PhD from MIT. Our head of controls is a PhD from University of Florida. So this is our first year in operation, but we got a lot of traction. We got bookings, more than $500,000. We have sales. And in 2 years' time, in 2021, we will do a lot of revenue increase because we will start selling our software solutions into serious projects. So next year, we will do Series A, so you're all welcome. And currently, we are looking for a strategic partner with €1 million to support us. So if you want to make cars intelligent today, and also if you want to make a lot of money, come and find me later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Umut. Next up, we will have Mehdi, for whom this is his third startup already. The first one went IPO. The second one was acquired for almost $100 million. Let's see what the third up is up to. Please welcome Mehdi from Silk here.
Thank you so much. Okay, good morning, everybody. So I'm Mehdi Asghari, founder and CEO of Silk. Silk is focused on taking machine perception beyond 3D. And let me see if I can figure out how this works. Okay. Yeah, we are basically focused on taking machine vision beyond 3D. And by beyond 3D, I mean not only the 2D that we usually have, but depth, velocity, polarization, reflectivity, and many more pieces of information that you can get from the photons that we usually destroy in the process of converting them to a 2D image. We are located in California. We will have an office up here in the Bay Area very soon, but that headquarters is actually in Monrovia. We integrate all the necessary functions to make our imaging solutions, our imaging chips, into a silicon photonic chip that offers a very robust, low-cost solution. We are about 25 people at the moment with a well-established manufacturing and technology platform, which we have utilized in the past in our previous startups for sensors, telecommunication, and data center applications. Let me go to the next slide. So basically what we do is we add other pieces of information such as depth, and velocity, reflectivity, or polarization information to every pixel that you have in a traditional 2D image. The results that you see here are achieved from our first test chip. Our second test chip just arrived. Our second chip just arrived. You can see a picture of it up there. It actually includes all the components that you need, all the photonics that you need, including the light generating source, the detectors, all the other functionality you need on a single chip to do this. So in terms of the competitive environment, you have other technologies that are targeting to do this kind of 2D, 3D, 4D type imaging. The radars are good at providing depth information, but they are very, especially they're good at mist or water or rainy days, but they don't really have the required resolution. And they also are very, their images are very bulgy, and they really struggle to provide differentiation for static, not moving components. You have time-of-flight solutions, which offer good, decent resolution at short to medium range. Sorry, at long and medium range, but they struggle at short reach. They also don't really have the capability to provide instantaneous velocity. And they are not immune to background radiation, and they also have multi-user interference issues. You also have geometrical technologies, such as a structured light or stereo cameras, and these solutions usually struggle with accuracy at long range, and they become quite large. So what the most usable technology that offers the most capability is really coherent imaging solutions like FMCW, but these solutions are often complex and expensive, and that is where Silk comes in, that integrates all these functionalities and complex architectures into a single silicon chip. So again, these are some of the results we have from our first test chip. I'm not sure why the movie doesn't play, but you're supposed to be able to see the movie playing for both depth information and velocity information from the scene over there where we have a bike riding and a car parked. But basically, you're able to get all that information from a tiny little piece of silicon chip that has all the functionalities you need. And we've been able to demonstrate range up to 200 meters so far with our first test chip. And we plan to demonstrate our second test chip at CES this year. Market for this kind of machine perception, of course, includes the exciting AV and ADAS applications for automotive. However, there are many other applications that we plan to target, including robotics, industrial, drones, as well as biometrics and gaming, AR, VR, and so on. So there are many, many markets that we are targeting with this platform. So as a summary, we basically see ourselves as providing a solution that takes imaging beyond 2D, enabling 3D, 4D imaging. And if you think about it, the entire imaging market is huge. Last year, there were over 7 billion image sensors sold. And even if we can grab 1% market share for taking imaging beyond 2D, we should have revenues of over $1 billion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mehdi. Our next presenter today is going to be Joel. Some of his friends who cannot pronounce his last name call him Joel Pizza Parmesan. Make sure that after the presentation you ask him what his actual last name is, because I couldn't tell you even if I tried. So now let's welcome Joel Pizza Parmesan from Blue Space.
Go. Hi, my name is Joel Parli. Try that one out. But we are Blue Space, and we are powering the future of urban mobility. So we are a group of industry veterans. We've built self-driving technology companies before. We've built full-stack AV technology, and we've deployed these services in the real world. And we've learned what works, and more importantly, we've learned the challenges that are still remaining. And this is a big, complicated topic, but I'll try to explain it very succinctly. The real problem we have is we need to get to verifiably safe next-gen AV. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we need to know that the AV is going to keep working, even if we don't have any training data for it, even if we've never seen this before. If I deploy my car in Australia, I need to know what to do about that kangaroo if I've never seen a kangaroo before. So how do we get there? to summarize it all in one picture, which is very high level, and I know there's a lot more detail here, but to put it succinctly, the current AV software really struggles with having certainty about its environment and understanding how things are moving and knowing what it knows and knowing what it doesn't know. What BlueSpace we're developing and what we've developed is the next generation perception technology that actually gives us guaranteed rigorous bounds on all objects that exist. So we know that that person's there, and we know that they must be within this range. And we do this without any training data. No prior data, so we'll know that that kangaroo's there and that kangaroo's jumping in that direction. And we have this without any prior information. So that's super high level, and happy to discuss more about that in detail, but we don't have the time in this presentation to go over that. So now where do we apply this technology? There's many different AV technology applications, but where should we apply this particular one? There's growing congestion and pollution all around the world. There's increasing urbanization, and we need solutions to that. Autonomy honestly doesn't solve capacity. I think this is a similar picture people have seen before, but whether we go electric or we go to autonomous and electric, if we still have low occupancy vehicles, we're flooding our streets, and there's simply not enough room to support that level of transportation. What we need is high-capacity transit. And this is a thing that exists already. I mean, we have buses. The thing is, how can we make this more convenient? How can we make these services more available? And the reason this service actually struggles right now is because 50 to 60% of the operating expenses that these services incur are driver-related. And these drivers are retiring and leaving the workforce in droves. 72% of them will retire by 2022, and there's no younger crop coming to replace them. So this leads to driver shortages, service disruption, and overall inconvenient service for all of us. And AVs can help solve this. And what we see, BlueSpace is developing the next-gen AV software, combining that with high-capacity transit to deploy driverless bus transit services in the near term. It's the right technology to provide safety, plus a straightforward application that gets us to revenue very quickly. Now, where we are right now, we've already closed our seed funding round, so we're heads down working on this. We have the team hired, and we have a prototype AV already in operation. And please contact us to work together on deployment cities, pilot service partners, and technology collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joel. Pizza Parmesan. I had to. The founders of our next company are currently on their third business together after casually meeting at an Apple store. So now, let's welcome Daniel from LGN.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. A little bit of background to LGN. We actually started out by building the world's most advanced AI-to-AI communications protocol with the idea of that being used to help the efficient deployment of autonomous systems. Autonomous systems need edge cases to work as best as they can. And the edge cases are this kind of 1% of all the data that contains 99% of the value. It's the weird things that can cause your systems to crash and burn. So collecting edge cases is super important. How do we work out where we get this from, and how do we do it currently? So at the minute, there's two commonly accepted systems. The top one is where we collect all the data that the car ever sees. So you've got these cool vehicles, you'll all see them driving around the streets of San Francisco that are collecting everything that the vehicle sees. This then goes into a big pile of data that has to be manually tagged and manually understood. The slight innovation is where someone drives around in a car with a big red button, and every time they see something slightly peculiar, they hit it. And this drastically reduces the amount of data that someone then has to manually tag. Manual just doesn't scale. There's no way that an incumbent or old school OEM or even the smartest OEMs of the planet are going to catch the likes of Tesla that are already out there collecting all the data sets that they need. To dive into that problem a little bit more, a simple lane change camera is going to generate kind of 70 terabytes of data a day for you to process. And on top of that, it's going to cost you a lot of money just to run the thing. So this is how we approach this problem. We have an automatic edge case detection that sits on the vehicle. It's constantly looking out for the weirdnesses where to get that the high value data sets. And it's able to send that back to your cloud in a super, super compressed fashion. We're talking literally kilobytes back to your cloud for improved training. Now, everyone knows that green means good, right? So when we compare the current systems to what we're doing, we have a super low acquisition cost. It's totally scalable across your entire fleet. You can think hundreds of thousands of cars across the entire planet picking up all of the different edge cases. There's no transfer cost, there's no storage cost, and there's very, very little processing cost. So what's actually happening? We are constantly predicting the next state of what this autonomous system should be seeing. We pull in the actual received information that the car does actually see, and we compare the two. Based on what's different, we're able to record the surprise in the scene, or the interest, the edge case, and then we send that back to you for training. So in summary, this is the best way to capture all of your training data. We're processing multiple different camera feeds, and our AI models sit down on the edge. We have one last space in our demonstrator program. Please do come and talk to me if you are training any autonomous systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Our next presenter today claims that he can run 7-minute miles and also wiggle his ears. I hope he can do both at the same time. Now, let's welcome Alan from Utopia. Can you do both at the same time?
I've never tried to do both at the same time, but I'll try next time I'm racing. Thank you, everybody. I'm Alan. I head business development for Utopia. We're a company that started out as purely focused on teleoperation for autonomous vehicles. We're also doing autonomy for simple operating environments with built-in teleoperation, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. So as you know, autonomy can provide huge benefits, anywhere from public roads to company supply chains, efficiency, safety, profitability. But the problem is that autonomy encounters edge cases, just like Jillian was talking about previously. And handling these exceptions, especially in the company supply chains, obviously also on public roads, on streets, can be a huge challenge for service levels and for profitability. So the solution is to make sure that your autonomy solution, whether it's a complex or a simple operating environment, has teleoperation built in to seamlessly handle those edge cases. So what we're doing today, aside from a pure teleoperation solution, is autonomy for simple ODDs with built-in teleoperation. Essentially, you have autonomy-enabled trucks, forklifts, other kinds of vehicles that can request help immediately from a remote operator and have that operator in real time analyze what the edge case, assess what the edge case is, what's tripping up the autonomy system, and seamlessly intervene to make sure that operations are running smoothly and that autonomous vehicles, whether they're in private facilities or streets, have no issue navigating that particular scenario. So let me show you a quick video, which I'm not sure. Okay, there you go. So this is going to mostly highlight our teleoperation solution. This is our car being remotely driven in the streets of Tel Aviv, which is where our engineering team is. Essentially, the car can be remote controlled without a problem. H.265 video encryption, so very low data requirements and very high reliability. We work on our own network video compression, safety systems, including, let's say, ADAS that is tailored for remote driving, as well as indirect methods of control. And also, as I mentioned, this can be put together with simple autonomy to make sure that that you have an end-to-end solution for automation autonomy, whether it's in public streets or public or private facilities. I am running a little bit out of time, but we're working in factories, all kinds of supply chains, container terminals, as well as on partnerships with autonomous vehicle companies and autonomous vehicle projects for their teleoperation needs. We've worked with shipping ports, steel manufacturers, and realizing actually pretty substantial savings, even today. We're building this, this array of technologies, which unlocks real value for companies in many different spaces. So I'm going to fast forward through this. This is part of our team. If you want to learn more about autonomy with seamless handling of edge cases that work today, please visit our websites or reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Our next presenter, Thomas, has always loved technology and trying to understand the world around us, so becoming an engineer was not a big deal at all. Now, let's welcome Thomas from Einride to talk more about what they are up to. Clappity clap.
Hello. So my name is Thomas, and I'm from Einride. I'm the founding engineer at the company. Today I'm here to talk about the future of road freight and how it's sustainable and cheaper than today. So this is an image that I think symbolizes the current state of the road freight industry pretty well. It's driver-centric, it's pretty inefficient, it's pretty unsustainable, and there's a lot of changes going on that will make the whole business model of this industry unsustainable. So the industry is responsible for about 7% of global CO2 annually. And that's something we're all about changing. That's our mission, to make road freight sustainable. So we're a team of experienced founders, executives, engineers from both automotive industry like Daimler, Volvo, Scania, but also software companies like Google, Spotify, Klarna. And we're building a new type of infrastructure that is both cheaper and more sustainable than the current alternatives around. We call it the Einride Autonomous Electric Truck System. It's very different from what you had today. Einride builds autonomous electric trucks, but sells transport as a service via subscription model. So we're a logistics company. What we promise is 60% lower operation costs in the end, where in some instances we can lower the cost with up to 90% from where it is today, which is not a 10% improvement, it's a 10-time improvement. We help our customers become digitally mature enough to handle this kind of system, but also reap the benefit of being digitally matured. So we started operations earlier this year together with DB Schenker, the world's 4th largest road freight company. We have 13 signed customers to which we're delivering right now and helping them become sustainable. And we closed our Series A not too long ago, so we raised a total of $35 million plus. We have a pretty great team of really great people, and now we're focusing on delivering across the world, really, but focusing on Western Europe and the United States. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Now we will have one of our corporate partners, Sekisui's, spin-out, the very first spin-out here at Plug and Play, called Lamulite, present their very, very first pitch today. So with no further ado, let's welcome Joshua from Lamulite.
All right, so my name is Joshua Kiriak, and I'm a business development specialist at Lamilite. And today I'm going to talk about a product we developed for the heads-up display industry. So essentially, the heads-up display industry is set to grow significantly in the next 5 years, from the current size of $590 million to $1 billion in 2024. And this is because automakers are looking to implement HUD into an increasing number of car models. At the same time, we think that the current heads-up display image quality can be improved. If you've ever driven a car with a heads-up display, you'll know that in direct sunlight it can be difficult to see. And there are also some resolution problems, but I won't get into that today. So what do? We make something called Interlayer Film. This is essentially a fancy word for plastic film that when you laminate it between two pieces of glass, adds functionality to the glass. And so the functionality is, in addition to being transparent, it's able to absorb sound, up to 35% more absorption of sound compared to similar glass. It keeps the interior of your car or building cool because it blocks infrared rays, and it also protects by preventing the glass from shattering. And so we took it a step further and developed what we call Lamilite. This is a interlayer film that when projected upon will display a vivid, colorful, bright image in both daytime and nighttime. So in addition to the original 4 functions of the conventional interlayer film, this has the ability to display information vividly and also emit light. And so the most immediate application that comes to mind are for heads-up displays. But we're thinking that it may have applications beyond simply people inside the vehicle, maybe for people outside. So if you're an owner of a car and you're approaching your vehicle, maybe it'll display customizable messages or information that's relevant to you. Can even be used as a design accent, maybe when a car is charging, for example. And even for self-driving vehicles to make the intent of the vehicle known to pedestrians outside of it. And beyond automotive, we're thinking this may have applications in the architectural glass market to make dynamic building facades, or even for dynamic advertising displays in retail applications. So what are we looking for? We're looking to collaborate with companies working in these spaces, mobility, construction, advertising, but we're also looking for companies that are developing advanced materials because we always want to add additional functionality to our interlayer film. And we think these collaborations would take the form of POCs, and if those go successful, eventual investment into your startups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. You must remember that a few moments ago, we had the body double of Russell Crowe, our Mann, here on stage. He actually wanted to show you his newest trailer. I'm kidding. We just wanted to show his video, which because of technical difficulties didn't play before, and give him a quick minute to maybe recapture the essence of Greenwald. So please, Arman, with no further ado.
Yeah, it's always a really good sign in Silicon Valley when you get asked back for a second pitch, so I appreciate that. Again, Greenwald is built on that whole vision of democratizing energy, freeing that battery from a tiny box and making the canvas larger. That's what is going to make it a reality to drive that car on a single charge across the US, because we can work with all of that space that we didn't have before. Like the frame of the BMW i3 that they're holding up, that can become a whole big battery. Or think about the airplane that you're flying and you're charging your phone and the whole seat is a battery material. It changes the concept of where batteries go, how they function, and how they work. And you know, if we're gonna make that flying Uber of tomorrow a reality, we're gonna need to reduce the weight of the whole unit. And the way to do that is to basically start expanding that canvas, like I was saying. And what I was excited to show you earlier was this pilot project from the Nordics, which is an electric boat. And it's actually incredible what you can do by lining the hull of a boat with battery material. With a hull thickness that's about 12 centimeters, you can get the equivalent of 5 Teslas worth of energy in a small fishing vessel. And that changes the whole calculation of how you can use a boat. And because of the fast charging capabilities, you can make the hull handle all of these shorter trips. And when you're loading the passengers, you can be fast charging the boat. So it just changes the way we use batteries, how we use technologies, and it kind of unleashes all of this technology innovation that's out there that is currently capped by these bad batteries. So again, my name is Armin Kojic, founder of Greenwald. Thank you for today, and come talk to me if you want to talk more. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Arman. Now, I'd like to welcome two gentlemen on stage to talk more about a successful pilot project that came through Plug and Play. One of our dear portfolio companies, Zappix, was introduced to one of our most engaged corporate partners, Goodyear. So now, to hear more about the project and the success of that, please welcome Jose and Christian. Who's in charge of the clicker?
You got it.
Hey everyone.
Hi, hello.
My name is Christian. I'm CEO and co-founder of Zappix, and Jose from Goodyear is joining us today. And we're super excited to be here. The reason for this session is sort of after having heard a lot of amazing pitches, reflecting a little bit on what comes after, which is then the exciting but also difficult and energy-heavy part of actually starting to work together. The two of us, we had the chance to meet here in Plug and Play in a slightly smaller room than this about 2.5 years ago. And what kicked off was a wonderful collaboration. And we wanted to share a bit of that story today. So, Jose, I'll let you kick it off to see how you're transforming Goodyear in that sense, a 122-year-old company with new mobility services.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Jose. I manage Goodyear's Innovation Lab in San Francisco. We've been there for almost 3 years now doing this whole work. And Zappix is one of the first companies that we met. So us being here, I think in a way is a symbol of, I hope, growth and progress from both ends. And yeah, and I'm happy to show you a little bit of what we're doing. And there's a lot of things that we can definitely talk, and we don't have a lot of time, but when we came here to Plug and Play to figure out what we were going to be in this ecosystem, we had definitely two clear ideas. We wanted to build new mobility solutions, and we wanted to work with startups and be embedded in the ecosystem. And there's many ways of doing that, and I think Plug and Play was kind of like a great guide at the beginning to kind of like help us walk through some of those things and understand what we wanted to be. And one of the things that we defined that we wanted to be is we say, hey, we're going to build a product. When we had commitment from our executive team, like to be here and work here, we said we're going to build a product, and that's where Zappix comes into the story a little bit more. But let me just give like a quick overview of this product that we're working on. On the right side, you have the Goodyear network, and I call that the sleeping giant when it comes to new mobility. It's like hundreds of thousands of stores all over the U.S., hundreds of technicians, lots of vehicles available, lots of underutilized assets, basically. And on the left side, you have the new consumer mobility fleets, which are basically all your new like shared mobility, autonomous future fleets of the world that are picking up and growing. And the common denominator about all these fleets is that they collect data from the car, put it in the cloud, and can make it available to different people for different things. And for that was a great opportunity for us to be able to go and grab that data, right? So we built a platform in the last couple of years that we've been working on that basically does that. We grab data from the cars, data from the mobility providers that decide to share that data with us, and then we're able to go and predict maintenance and schedule the best maintenance for those fleets to allow them to reduce downtime and maximize the efficiency of their operations team. And basically, we've been, building that handshake ever since. And the way that we're using and working more with Zappix today is on this piece here, is the opportunity for us to manage more data inputs, because when we went at this, you had two options. You can go and put a lot of hardware in the cars, or you can go hardware agnostic and just say, hey, whatever data is coming from these vehicles or this fleet management platforms, we're going to understand and we're going to make sense of it and we're going to use it. And that's kind of like the dream, but that's really hard to do in the kind of like mobility landscape. And that's part of like the work that we would do in the Zappix to kind of figure all that out.
And it's really inspiring to see, we're showing slides today, but there's activity out there, and it's coming to life. And I think having gotten to that point where you see customer feedback, your customers are loving this, are requesting the service, want more of it, want more fleets covered. That's an amazing feedback, and it's part of the journey for us in that sense as a company, and that's why I love to share the story here together with you, because at the end of the day, Zappix is a technology solution provider. So our value proposition is making data flow in that sense. Whether, like in an example like this can be data from vehicles, from telematics units, this can be data related to CRM and product systems. And you can have different approaches in the ecosystem. Some of you may know companies like Smart Car and Autonomo and others who are driving a great value proposition into the industry for aggregating and also holding data in that sense. For us, we want to take a much more open approach in that sense. We're a tool that enables platforms like the one that Jose has presented to essentially take control, full control of their destiny in that sense, in terms of the types of data, the types of partners that they want to integrate on, and have that, you could say, as a plug-and-play experience instead of writing hundreds of thousands of lines of code to actually integrate with all of these partners. What I love about automotive in that sense is that it's really at the cornerstone of a lot of activities, you could say, in a broader mobility smart city landscape. You have much more interoperability between tier one suppliers, OEMs obviously, but then also insurance companies, smart city, all the way to the hospitality industry. And for us, that's a bigger vision, which is slowly and starting to unfold. And it's really nice to see that also then with more and more fleets and mobility services come to life. Something that we wanted to dive in a little bit is how the collaboration actually unfolded, because I think there are interesting learnings in that, because a lot of you might actually be in a position where you're coming here, you're defining your strategy on what you're doing next, and you might maybe are already or hopefully will be as successful as Jose to actually get the buy-in from your organization to build and scale an organization. And maybe you can walk us through how
Yeah,
that went.
absolutely. I mean, what I like about this timeline too is that it's talks about our favorite approach, the crawl, walk, and run. And we definitely started crawling when we got here. We were not very clear about these strategies, and the big open question that Goodyear had for us here, our executives had, is like, what does Goodyear have to do in Silicon Valley? And there's a lot of things that Goodyear can do here in Silicon Valley if you actually think about it. Should we come here and partner with local OEs that are building great new platforms and do tire work, or should we do things outside of the tire work and think about what can Goodyear be in like 10, 20 years from now? So we decided on the latter one, and it's more a futuristic one. But at the beginning, we landed a plug and play, basically me and an engineer, a data scientist, and we didn't know exactly what to do. One thing we did know that we didn't want to be is we didn't want to be a predictor of the future. We didn't want to serve like a futurist team for our executives to go and be like, this is how the future is going to be. We decided to build a future and to have teams here that will support the work that we would do. Therefore, we were able and better prepared to work with companies like Zappix. So we founded that lab, we expanded the team, and early this year we started doing our first market pilots all over California, and now we added a couple of other states. and we have 4 customers right now, we were able to sharpen our product vision and then continue to grow the team. I think right now we're reaching 20 people by the end of the year. But what was interesting is like we started first with like a very simple claims of test and what we call proof of concept. Then we did another pilot this year when we were more ready and had like a sharpened product vision. And now we're building a new market pilot, which is more robust and looks more like a business transaction partnership, but still very close with Zappix. And if you look at this timeline, like it's 2.5 years. Actually, you and I were like grabbing coffee earlier, and it was like, wow, 2.5 years. Like in my mind, it was probably just 6 months. But you know, it's been interesting. We've been working at different stages together, and as our product has developed, also the way that your offering has also developed a lot in the last 2 years.
Yep, and I think that's like a critical part as you guys are building and growing the startup, and I think you're very humble with it. You've very much set the like a good set of the footprint for Goodyear overall what has been replicated in other areas of the world then. But in that sense, I think one of the most important parts in sort of collaboration between teams of any size is just having an open conversation, having on building that trust in each other. Because as Jose's team is developing and it's sharpening its vision of the product, we're doing the same thing on our product side. And the most fruitful, the strongest collaborations are those which really reinforce each other and allow that go-to-market. So yeah, I'm excited to see the market pilot come to life, see the scale up into the other states, and we'll see. Maybe at some point we're going to be back here and reporting back.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now I have 2 mics and I don't know which one is the actual one that's plugged in. So I'm gonna be doing this. A lot of you already know the drill. We typically want to recognize a startup which is the crowd's favorite, and a bunch of you already have, okay, this is the one. A bunch of you already have submitted your votes. If you would follow the QR code on the other side of your name badge, you would get to Lineuper, and then you go to the section voting and simply pick your favorite startup from the first half of the day today. And in the meantime, we will play a video, and afterwards we'll see who was the fave. So please.
We just completed an event here at the Andretti Winery in conjunction with Plug and Play and invited a bunch of corporate sponsors from the mobility and IoT verticals to talk about innovation and specific challenges that companies have in proving ROI and demonstrating value from their innovation activities, both here in Silicon Valley and around the world.
Corporate best practice sharing in environments like this where we're with our peers are so important for us to gain knowledge about mistakes that other people have made so that we don't make the same mistakes and reinvent the wheel. And it's so great to hear from our peers on frameworks that they've used to think about and also help them through challenges that they're facing.
The goal today is mainly to kind of learn from each other's experiences and best practices as well. For me, it's been great. We just joined the program of Plug and Play and Startup Autobahn, and so we are still learning a lot how to organize ourselves and also how to learn to motivate and activate our business leaders to see what's happening here, and it's very exciting. Especially like today, focus on one solution or one problem and try to develop a solution or a service or product that can have a big impact on the market and be commercial ready from the start.
A lot of idea sharing between all the different anchor partners, getting a sense of
how all these different companies do innovation, how they measure innovation. We love coming out here, sharing ideas, and looking how we can disrupt even in an established corporate company. I think it's great to get all the different perspectives from mobility, Internet of Things, all the different verticals, taking a day to really deep dive in what our biggest challenges are. And I think that's something that should continue and something that helps us innovate further.
Okay, last chance to cast your votes. If you missed out, that's on you, but I think it's time. I think it's time to learn who was the audience's favorite startup from the first half of the day. So I would like everyone to participate in a small, quick little action before lunch. Let's make a drum roll. Everyone, everyone, everyone. No lunch for people who don't drum roll. And the winner is Guardnox. Jillian, please come on stage. I'm like really afraid to drop this, so I'm gonna carefully handle this to you. Thanks for being here today and sharing the wonderful story of Guardnox. And maybe you want to say a couple of words.
Thank you guys so much. This has been an amazing experience, and I look forward to continuing the conversations. And we've had a lot of other startups here as well, so it's really an honor to be chosen. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And now, as per usual, I'm pretty much the only thing between you guys and lunch. So feel free to go upstairs. If you don't know where the lunch will be catered, feel free to find anyone with a silver name tag. Anyone from Plug and Play will be more than happy to guide you to the place where you can fill your tummies. And in the meantime, also please use Brella. Schedule some more meetings with the companies you've seen so far. Find some other like-minded individuals, and let's have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, guys.